I don't know very many people who are living the lives that they envisioned for themselves when they were young. A few, but most people that I know, no. Anyway, anyway, I change is hard. Change is hard even if you're someone that embraces change, and I do. And I embrace change because of the lessons that I've learned since my health went, I'm trying not to cuss, since my health went bad. Since my health went south many years ago. I realized it got to the point where it's like, okay, I can't pill this away. I can't wish this away. I gotta start working on myself, figure out what the hell I can do to make this better. I still have the health issues, but I'm a lot happier person now. Why? Because I learned how to embrace change. But it's the only thing you can count on in life is that everything's gonna change. And sometimes that all changes in the blink of an eye, and there's nothing you can do about it. But we also resist change when it's something that we're seeking. I have something I really want to do. I really want to do. And yet I find myself coming up with admittedly fairly legitimate excuses, but they're still excuses. So let's talk about why change is so difficult for people. This information is from psychologytoday.com. Number one, negative emotions aren't good driving forces. Now, it seems that guilt, fear, regret, shame, all of those seem like good reasons to change, right? But the problem is, you need a solid foundation. You need a positive foundation to build on. You cannot build a lot of growth and a lot of change on a shaky, weak foundation. And all of those emotions, I don't want to say they're negative emotions because they all have their time and their place and they do serve a purpose. But they're not good enough reasons to change. They just aren't. If you are trying to change because of guilt, fear, regret, shame, whatever it is, you need to look at that situation and find, okay, so I want to get away from this part of my life. What skills do I need? And you start learning that stuff. That's going to help you build a solid foundation of positivity that you can truly grow from. Number two, we struggle with change because of fallacies in our thinking. All or nothing rarely works. It does for some people, but it doesn't for very many. Like when Atkins first came out, I was never going to eat carbs again. Well, come on, that's ridiculous. That's destined to fail. And it's funny because when I did do Atkins and then later when I did keto, not so much when I did keto because I was already eating fairly well by then, but all I could think about on Atkins was bread. I mean, seriously, that was like, I became obsessed with bread because I told myself I couldn't have it. You need to focus on small changes. Like by the time I got to where I was eating keto, I had made enough small changes in my diet that giving up bread was no big deal. I didn't eat very much bread. When I went on autoimmune paleo, that's it. That's a crazy restrictive eating protocol. It's insanely restrictive. The food's good, but I got to where I hated it because I got so focused on changing everything all at once and making it perfect. Well, of course, perfect doesn't exist. But I've learned since to focus on small changes. And not every meal that I cook is autoimmune paleo, but the vast majority of the food that I make at home is autoimmune paleo. And you know what? No, it's not perfect AIP if I go out and have a steak and a salad for dinner because I can't control what they put on the steak and I can't control what's in the salad dressing. But you know what? That's still a pretty healthy dinner. And there's no point in me beating myself up on it. Those are positive changes. But when I had that, I must be perfect on this. I have to do it all right now or I'm going to just fail and be a horrible, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. It was really funny. I was having a conversation with my doctor. One of my doctors. I actually had to fire this one for long story. Actually, gosh dang, it's never the doctors, it's always the offices that they work out of, because I fired him because of the office that he works out of. But anyway, we were having a conversation one day a couple years ago, and it was really funny. So he said, Courtney, one of the things I like most about you is no matter what life throws at you, you find a positive spin on it. And so and this was before my mom passed away. My mom was just starting to get really sick. So I was like, well, how's your mom? Well, this really sucks, but well, how's everything he'd ask me, well, okay, so this sucks, but, and I'd have something positive to say. And then he came to asking me about the autoimmune paleo eating, and I just exploded. And I was like, I hate that effing diet. I hate every second of it. I resent every mouthful. There's nothing fun of it. And it's really not that bad. It's not. The food is good. It just takes preparation. But I had like a total meltdown in his office, and he was so shocked. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is so unlike you. But was because I had the fallacy of it's all or nothing. Focus on small changes. Celebrate your wins as you go. Number 3, we struggle with change because our intentions are too vague. I'm going to start eating better. Well, that's great, but what the hell does that mean? What does that mean to you? Because what that means to you is going to probably be very different than what that means to me. And that's just because we are different people. We have different biochemistry. We have different, everything's different about us. So that's why, side note, that's why if you ever notice like some of your friends can go on a crazy diet and it works for them, and you try the same diet and it doesn't work for you, it's because you're different people. It's because your body handles us all differently. That in fact, I'm still doing intermittent fasting, but I had to read into it a little further, and I had to back off from the 16 and 8 schedule. I have really severe adrenal problems, and I noticed I didn't have a problem. It was great. My cravings were really going down. It was getting to where I had no problem with the fasting periods. But all of a sudden I noticed my anxiety was just shooting through the roof. I was listening to a book about health, and they were talking about how if you have severe adrenal problems like I do, fasting for long periods of time is not a good idea. So I've read up on it. No, obviously I'm not getting the same benefit as with a 16 and 8, but a 12 and 12 is considered a baby fast. It's a beginner's fast, and I backed off to that yesterday. I got to tell you, my anxiety has really, it's astonishing what just one day of that has done. So you gotta have clear intentions. I'm going to start eating right. What does that mean? Are you going keto? Are you going paleo? Are you going autoimmune paleo? Are you going vegan? Are you just cutting calories? Are you doing an 80-20? Are you doing what the hell are you going to do? What does that look like to you? Have the intention. If you're not a healthy eater, I used to eat so poorly. If you're not a healthy eater, instead of giving yourself a huge, overwhelming task ahead of you about how you're going to change your diet, just change one thing at a time. Add an extra serving of vegetables every day this week. Next week, add another serving of vegetables in. Pretty soon you'll get, and it's funny, I did not believe this when I ate really unhealthy, but you will get to the point where your taste buds, and better, your body will start to crave the healthier foods. That is very cool. But if you just tell yourself, I'm going to eat healthier, that's too vague. Your brain's like, yeah, whatever, this, I don't need to worry about this really. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to eat an extra serving of vegetables every day this week, well, you'll know by the time you got to the end of the week. You'll know if you did it or not. Whereas I'm eating healthier. How do you know at the end of the week if you've reached that? So start small, keep it doable. Number 4, we struggle with change because we often don't have the right tools. Sticking with the eating healthier example, do you know how to read food labels? If you want to eat healthier, you're going to have to develop a basic understanding of food labels. My best friend and I laugh about this every time I talk to her. My girlfriend and I, when we were younger, we knew nothing. We knew nothing about getting healthy or really anything about nutrition at all, because we weren't taught anything. And we both used to think that frosted mini wheats were a health food, which is so ludicrous looking back. But at the time, it's like, well, it's wheat. And back then, wheat was supposed to be good for you, which, by the way, if you want to see when the obesity rates in America exploded, supposedly all you got to do is look back at where they changed the food pyramid to make it grain heavy. I haven't ever done it. I don't know, but I did. I thought frosted mini wheats were health food. You have to understand what you're looking at when you're reading a label. You're going to need a tracking method. You need a plan. Are you going keto? Are you going vegetarian? How are you going to do this? If you're going to, maybe you want to track your macros. Okay. Maybe you want to track your calories. That's fantastic. A lot of people have great success doing that. How are you going to do it? Are you going to carry a notebook around? Are you going to use an app? What app are you going to use? You need to figure this out. If it's important to you, you're going to find a way to do it. It's just that simple. Number 5, this kind of ties back to the fallacies in our thinking. We try to do too much at once. We struggle with change because we overwhelm ourselves by trying to do too much at once. You know, if you're a couch potato, if you're not a healthy person, you're not going to magically jump up and start eating a beautiful, nutritious diet and doing insanity every day. It doesn't work that way. Change demands control. It demands motivation. It demands discipline. And you know what? It takes time. That's where we run into problems. We have become a very instant gratification society. I want it right damn now. Doesn't work that way. You've got to start small and build. Maybe, you know, I have a boss. I just love him. I do. But he pisses me off because he's one of those people that can eat anything and never gains any weight. And he has told me more than once, and his daughter has confirmed, he really sees green M&Ms. That's green. It counts, right? No, it doesn't. I have my thoughts on what it's doing to his health, but that's not my business. But it frustrates the hell out of me that he does that. But if you're that kind of person, you're going to have to start small. Maybe even just having a piece of fruit instead of vegetables. Vegetables might be a step too far for you right now. And you know what? Honestly, I've been there. That's so embarrassing to admit, but I've been there. So if vegetables are a step too far, start with fruits. You got to start small. Start with something you can manage, and it will build over time. But, side note, you also need to remember to give yourself credit where credit is due. And if you've done really well, maybe you haven't changed another damn thing, but maybe you have added a serving of fruits or vegetables, or maybe you've given up a soda every day. That's a big change. I used to be a Diet Coke-aholic. Seriously, everywhere I went, I had a 12-pack of Diet Coke under my arm, and that is absolutely horrifying for me to look back on now. But what the hell was my point with that? I don't know. Oh, that's so embarrassing. What are you going to do? That's brain fog in action. It's been a really weird day. I don't really feel that bad, but like when I got dressed, my leggings, which they're not, I mean, you know, well, they're leggings, so of course they're a little tight, but I mean, they're not like brand new or anything. They're stretched as leggings are going to get, I would imagine. They're just my old workout ones. And when I put them on this morning, I was very aware of the seams. It's like, oh, it's going to be an interesting day, isn't it? And it has been. But I'm really not in a whole lot of pain. I'm just spacey, and I don't know. I guess the best way to describe it would be almost like I've been lightly sanded and all my nerves are on end. Anyway, I always have a good excuse for being a space cadet. It's the fibromyalgia. So sorry. Number 6, we struggle with change because we don't realize what something truly requires. Long-term change, it takes time. There are a ton of little itty bitty steps, and you have to build momentum before you. An example, you could be sitting there and think, you know what? I want to run a marathon. And that's a fantastic goal. But then you start looking into it and what it involves to train for a marathon, and you think, not so much. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's not. In fact, that's good, because now you know you're not really that interested in that goal and you can move on to something else. But my point is, we get these ideas that, oh, wouldn't that be great? We have no idea what's involved in getting there. But you know what's cool? Success leaves a trail. So if there's something you want to do, I can guarantee somebody somewhere has done it already. And if they've had any measure of success, you're going to find their story somewhere on the internet. So happy hunting. Don't be creepy. Don't be a creeper, but happy hunting. You can find what they did, and you can use that to help build your own map to get you where you want to go. Number 7, we struggle tremendously with change because we're afraid to fail. But you know what? That's ridiculous. You want to know why it's ridiculous? Because failure is simply feedback. So you tried something and you fell flat on your ass and you're embarrassed and you're mortified. But you know what? Pick yourself up, because you learned a valuable lesson. You learned that whatever you just did, it's not going to work for you. That's okay. Now you can set that plan aside and you can move on. You can readjust. You can adjust your sails. You can change your course. It's just feedback. It's not a terrible thing unless you make it a terrible thing. And you know what? It's inevitable. You're going to fail. We're all going to fail. That's part of life. You need to accept that and move on. And if we don't ever pick ourselves back up after we fail, I mean, think about where you'd be. You would have never learned to walk or to talk. All that stuff. It's lots of little steps that lead up to it. So you can't be afraid to fail. That's just so silly. And I'll admit, I fall prey to that too. You know what that is? That's just your ego trying to protect itself. And your ego is the really silly, flighty part of you. So don't listen to it. Number 8, people struggle with change because of a lack of commitment. It's really easy to sit here and say, oh, wow, wouldn't this be great? But then when it comes to actually do the work, I don't really want to do that. Well, you know what? If you're not going to do the work, nothing's going to change. That's just the way it goes. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys tonight. And I'm going to take my very weird mood and go, I don't know what the hell I'm going to go do. I have a Bible study in a few hours. I love it. It's been a really, really gratifying Bible study. I get so much out of it. I take pages and pages and pages of notes every week. But I got to tell you, it is so late. And I'm laughing saying that because the person who leads it's in Texas. So it starts at 7:30 my time, which is 10:30 his time. And it goes 90 minutes. And I got to tell you guys, by the end of the 90 minutes, I'm like slumping over at my desk and yawning and trying really hard to keep my eyes open. So maybe I'll try to catch a cat nap before then. But anyway, I'm rambling. So you guys have a great night. I will be back Wednesday at 5 o'clock Alaska time. And look, I'm not an expert on change by any stretch. All I can tell you is I used to be suicidal. I used to be so wrapped up in being a victim of my circumstances. And now I'm known as somebody with a really good attitude. And I don't take, I have to acknowledge my health issues, but I don't really let them run my life anymore, because I already gave up enough shit to them. Excuse my language. I'm really trying to do better, but I'm tired of giving up my life to this crap. So if you are struggling with change, drop me a line. I'd be happy to share with you some of the books and podcasts that I love that have made a big difference for me. And you know what? The podcasts are free and you can probably find the books at a library. So if you're not even ready to make an investment in yourself, you can still get started working on being a happier person. Anyway, y'all have a great night. I will be back Wednesday at 5 o'clock. I had to think about that. At 5 o'clock.